Hello, today I want to talk about President Trump's speech to Congress this March 2025. I know, President Trump is a very polarizing person. And he says things that I disagree with, and he says other things that I strongly disagree with. But today I want to talk about the parts of his speech that I find that they make sense to me. And of course, I will also touch on the parts that I find problematic. So let's dive in. He spoke about meritocracy. And meritocracy, it makes a lot of sense to me, which is the idea that success should be based on talent, effort, and achievement rather than arbitrary factors such as race, gender, or sexual orientation. When people are rewarded by their hard work or the ability to do a particular task, society as a whole benefits. But when we give positions or preferential treatment to a group of people over another because they are either female or male, because they are gay or straight, or because they are black or white, then we as a society, we suffer because this creates dividing lines. When we give a job or a position to a person because that's the best person for the job, because that's the most qualified person, then we all gain.
We believe that whether you are a doctor, an accountant, a lawyer, or an air traffic controller, you should be hired and promoted based on skill and competence, not race or gender. Very important. You should be hired based on merit. And
the other topic that makes sense to me is the topic of gender identity. Yes, I may be old-fashioned, but I think as the President Donald Trump, I think that there are two genders, male and female. And this makes society, this is based, first of all, on biological realities. And it also simplifies our social, legal, and institutional framework. Everything works based on these two genders. If you want to believe that you are a cat, well, we don't have a framework for people who believe they are a cat. And if you believe, I don't know, you are a cactus, we don't have a framework for that. And I believe that people could identify as they want to identify. If you're a man and you want to identify as a woman, good for you. You know, we congratulate you. But don't force the rest of all society to participate in your story. You know, maybe your close friends, they can participate in that story, but don't force the whole society to participate on it. As long as we have some clear guidelines, male, female, then we will function much better. And, you know, whatever you want to be on your time off or among your friends, good for you. Go ahead and do it. Just don't force the whole society to jump into that play game with you.
And I signed an order making it the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
Another issue that makes sense to me is the issue of fairness in women's sport. This is undeniable. There are biological differences between men and women. And anyone who doubts that, I just don't understand how is it possible to doubt that. We men, we have bigger muscle mass, bigger bone density, higher testosterone levels that allow us to be stronger, faster, and have more stamina than women. And to allow the two sexes to compete against each other just because one of them identifies as a woman, this is complete unfairness. I don't know how many of you saw the Paris Olympics when you had a boxer, a male boxer, fighting against a female boxer, and that female boxer was totally destroyed. And I don't understand how anyone can believe that this was fair. This is one of the main issues why independent voters decided to vote for Trump, because they can see the injustice in this. And I still don't understand how other people just don't see that injustice.
I also signed an executive order to ban men from playing in women's sports.
Another factor that made sense to me is the control of illegal immigration. This was a major factor in the past elections. My mother, she's 85 years old, she's an older lady, and she is afraid, or she was afraid, to just get out on the streets and walk around because there are so many illegal aliens just roaming the streets, just creating fear on the population, especially an older person like my mother. And my whole family has always voted Democrat, but this time they were so afraid, they were so annoyed with this wave of illegal immigrants that they flip. And I cannot blame them. I mean, I know the fear that my mother goes through every time she goes out. So for her, that makes sense. And for millions of other people who feel that fear, it makes sense. During the Biden administration, anywhere from 240 to 250,000 people were being arrested because they were trying to cross the border illegally. Now it has dropped to, I don't know, the lowest level in 20 years. It's about 8,000 people being arrested when they're crossing the border illegally. So imagine that. From 240 to 8,000. That's a huge drop, and this is a promise that the new president made, and he is delivering on this promise. And I believe that President Biden, he didn't just drop the ball. It almost feels like he was complicit in this, and people were fed up. So this makes sense to me. It's not that Americans don't like immigrants. They just don't like uncontrolled, unrestrained immigration. If people want to come into the country, they should go through the regular channels to come into the country. And that's it. So this makes lots of sense to me.
That morning, Laken was viciously attacked, assaulted, beaten, brutalized, and horrifically murdered. Laken was stolen from us by a savage illegal alien gang member who was arrested while trespassing across Biden's open southern border and then set loose into the United States under the heartless policies of that failed administration. He had then been arrested and released in a Democrat-run sanctuary city, a disaster, before ending the life of this beautiful young angel. That's why the very first bill I signed into law as your 47th president mandates the detention of all dangerous criminal aliens who threaten public safety.
One more thing that makes complete sense to me is the intervention of or the help of Elon Musk to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse of the federal government money. How can someone be opposed to reducing waste, fraud, and abuse? And I will share some of the things that Elon Musk have found that it just blows my mind. It blows my mind, first of all, that they existed, and it blows my mind that Democrats are defending it. So just take this one for example, $600,000 to study menstrual cycles in transgender men. I mean, this is an issue that we just spoke about. Either you are a man or you are a woman. If a transgender man is a woman, and the menstrual cycle doesn't change just because this transgender man, which is a woman, identifies as a man. So yes, $600,000 for that. $8 million to promote LGBTQI initiative in the country of Lesotho. Lesotho is a small little country in Africa, South Africa. And why does $8 million have to be spent in this population? This is somebody's tax money. There are millions of people in the United States who are struggling to pay their rent, who are having a hard time putting food on the table, and to think that their tax dollars are contributing to promote LGBTQI initiative in Lesotho is fucking crazy. And there is, $8 million to make mice transgender. How does this make sense? Why is this obsession with the Biden administration with transgender this and transgender that, and all that out of taxpayers' pocket? And finally, $10 million for male circumcision in Mozambique. Yes, circumcisions are good. It's nice that they have it in Mozambique. But why is this money being taken out of somebody else's pocket to give it to someone in Mozambique? I still don't understand, but it makes sense to me to look into this and to try to understand why, and if it doesn't make sense for the regular taxpayer in the United States to continue spending that money, to eliminate it. Why would somebody be against these ways? I just don't know, and I don't understand it, but it makes sense to me to try to analyze it and to eliminate it.
Just listen to some of the appalling waste we have already identified. $22 billion from HHS to provide free housing and cars for illegal aliens. $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is. Under the Trump administration, all of these scams.
Now, I will speak about the things that I did not like and I do not like. One of those things is the tariff being imposed on Canada and on Mexico. I mean, what's the deal? Canada and Mexico are the closest partners. We are into a partnership to try to help each other. This partnership has made Canada, United States, and Mexico more prosperous. And then why all of a sudden are we being penalized? The excuse is the fentanyl crisis, but we know that there's not that much fentanyl going from Canada to the United States. And if we are going to look into crisis, how about looking into the crisis of all the weapons that are being exported from the United States into Canada or from the United States into Mexico? Okay, how about that? But honestly, I am a Canadian and I think it's offensive, it's hurtful. At the same time, I also have to mention that the Canadian government is not playing 100% fair because there are Canadian tariffs on dairy products, poultry products, and egg products, tariffs as high as over 100%. So yes, I criticize the Trump's 25% tariff on Canadian products, but at the same time I want to highlight that I'm totally against the tariff that the Canadian government imposes on poultry, eggs, and dairy products. So yeah, this cuts both ways. I hope Donald Trump will stop those tariffs, but at the same time I hope the Canadian government will look at themselves in the mirror and eliminate those unfair tariffs. And finally, the other subject that I do not agree at all with President Trump is in his imperialistic vision, the vision of making Canada the 51st state, of taking over Greenland and reclaiming back the Panama Canal. This reminds me of the time of Napoleon when he wanted to take the whole Europe. I'm totally against these ideas. I'm sure most Canadians don't want to be part of the United States. But either way, I think we are better off as neighbors, good neighbors, but not as a whole complete country. Who knows what will happen, but and I probably would benefit from this union. I like having commerce all around, but I just don't think it's a good idea to enforce those imperialistic ideas or ambitions on other countries. The same with Greenland. I don't think the people from Greenland are happy with this. The same with Panama. I don't think Panamanians are happy with this idea. So yes, I think this is a civilized world where we live in, and gone are the days where countries used to invade each other just to take each other's land. I mean, it's happening right now with Russia and Ukraine. Russia just reach out and say, we're gonna take this country because we are bigger and more powerful, but I don't think that's how a global society will function. So I felt that I had to make this video because I listen to the news, I read newspapers, and these issues were not mentioned in most of the news that I listen or read. They were not mentioned in the Wall Street Journal, which is one of the things that I read, The Economist, the Washington Post, none of them. All of them were critical of Donald Trump's rhetoric, but there was a lot of information that was left out, and these are the issues that I agree with. I believe that it is unfair for men to compete in women's sport. I believe on the idea of meritocracy, and I believe on the idea of two genders, men and female. I also believe that Donald Trump shouldn't be reaching out and grabbing other countries, and I also believe as a Canadian that I would like to stay as a Canadian, and I don't believe in tariff. So
the results of the election, I don't think that they would like to believe this, but it was a rejection of what was happening. I think the assumption is everybody just loves Trump and he's just this populist, and every person that voted for him is like, I just love everything about this guy. But I actually think that a lot of people were just like, I don't like what's happening now.
Right.
And this current administration is saying that they don't want to change much that's happening now.
Right.
So I'm voting against that lack of change.
So let me know what you think. I'm eager to know what is it that you like or dislike about that speech. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and on to soon. Peace.